40 seconds. Hey, everybody, it's Scott Stevens here with a look at, well, Scott's weather. We're having quite the day. In fact, where I am in southern Colorado, I've got a window right there. There's drapes in there, so I don't have light on me, but I can see the sun shining through, and that's nothing unusual. But what is unusual is that you might hear, if we listen closely, and I stay silent for a moment, some thunder. And in fact, this is probably this is the first measurable rain we've had in nearly a month. And the 500ths, which is just a 20th of an inch that we've had here in the San Luis Valley today, and my little location puts us finally over 1 inch for the year. And that is one of the driest beginnings that we've had in recorded history in the southern, actually in the eastern San Luis Valley. And yes, that's what happens if I don't pull the curtains closed. The dogs have a look around to see what's going on. All right. I kind of want to go over here. Let's share the screen and we'll have a look see. And this is what was actually happening outside. I just shot this not moments ago. And that was the sum total of the rain. We had a little bit earlier today, and you can see the little shower going on out there right now. I'll pan off to the west, and there's a break in the clouds. And of course, we have to have a lovely stripe in the sky just so we keep tabs on what's going on up there. But it was nice to smell that lovely smell of rain. Well, this is nothing like what Kansas City ended up with, as Weather Nation calls it, too much rain. 3 to 5 inches of rain have been reported across Kansas City area today, leading to dangerous scenes like this. And in any metro area, when you have as much hard surfaces, as much pavement, asphalt, cement, uh, driveways, rooftops and so forth, you're going to get a lot of runoff, less than what would have happened had this been a fully agricultural scenario. So there's a lot of runoff, and Kansas City simply isn't the only one to deal with this. They're a little bit. Let's just say they don't need it. They don't need that much water. We're kind of looking for the development of tropical situation in the Bay of Campeche. The models have been suggesting this. We talked about it last week that we had a larger circulation center, a total what we call a Central American gyre or a large rotational pattern, and that's partially a result of this gyre, would be partially a result of the strong omega block that we've had in place on and off, but just doesn't want to quite let go. Nevertheless, the models, many of them are signaling that we'll see that kind of development. Kind of cool. Mike Bettis posting today a photograph of Galveston Bay with two tornadoes. And that was a well warned storm. It's nice that they were not wrapped in rain where you have the tornado here and then just rain all the way around. We had at least some pretty good visibility of of those tornadoes so they could be warned on and people could see them and then take appropriate action for their speed and where they were going. A kind of a cool shot this morning out in the northeastern Pacific in the Bay of in the Gulf of Alaska. Just this massive low continuing to churn there, and as this guy churns, the jet stream has to go around it. It can't go through it. It's like you've got a big trough, a big depression, and all the traffic has to go around it. And we've got another one beneath it with the jet stream kind of arcing off in between. So the two storms there have been protecting the California area, the Nevada, Arizona. And so they've been locked underneath strong high pressure and bringing us some record heat. All right, this is kind of cool. The National Weather Service is excited to include Cosmos 2 data in our weather prediction models. Over 4,000 new tropical concentrated sets of temperature and humidity measurements daily will improve our short to medium range model forecast accuracies, including hurricanes. So, what they're doing is using the already present GPS satellites. And what they're able to look at, the satellite is stationary over the equator. And so, as they scan towards the horizon of the Earth, they're looking at the very edge of the atmosphere where it meets the surface of the planet. and then by the radio waves either bending, how they reflect, essentially how the radio wave signal passes through the atmosphere, they can determine temperature and moisture content. It's called remote sensing or sounding. And that wherever you can get that data, we'll take it. We'll take it because the tropics, a lot of it is ocean, and a lot of it isn't necessarily third world. But let's just say the data that they get in the middle and upper part of the atmosphere is sparse at best. Even in the 21st century, that's the situation we're in. We're back in the Gulf of Alaska with that big storm spinning, and then we're kind of May. We're into late May, and the deer, and we have plenty of them here. If you saw my garden, front yard in the very first video, we've got a brand new fence up, and that's to keep, sadly, these little guys out from eating the freshly planted garden because mama and baby will do it. This is what the tornado looked like across the Galveston Bay. That was a kind of a serious event. All right, so what we're seeing is the heat. I'll refresh this just to make sure we get the latest data on in there. We're kind of hot. Let's do resubmit the form just because sometimes they won't give you data without that. There's the heat, like a thermal California at 110, probably El Centro down in that direction, 107, far Southern California, the Central Valley of California in the triple digits, straight up all the way up to probably Redding and maybe even to Medford, Oregon at 95 degrees. 91 in Boise, 83 in the Pocatello area, and then much cooler in the middle of the nation where we are dealing with this big guy, this big storm continuing to rotate, drawing down cool air from the north, and then where we have all of that tropical moisture kind of hanging out along the Gulf Coast and intersecting this cool air from the north, obviously you would expect to see those rains there. That's just kind of where they would be, and they've been rather heavy. Kansas City with the heavy thunderstorms there, and then Miami down here again on the verge of those. And I believe some of those totals were yesterday. All right, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to look right up in Montana. You say, Scott, why up there? Well, because I have had a fascination with contrails for a while, probably the better part of 15 years, and how they can play into additional cloud cover, how they can allow for the satellites in remote sensing to see what's going on in the upper atmosphere, how they can rip and tear and spread and make all kinds of funny shapes, whether you believe they're natural, unnatural, some geoengineering, some weather modification. I don't care. I like looking at them because they're always telling a story. And you can see them racing along. There's a brand new image, much faster than the clouds just beneath them or even at the same levels. Because I have seen some contrails, literally one floating along and another one passing right on through it. So it's almost like they're attached to different vibration, different resonances, but they're worthy of paying attention to because they tell a story of what's happening at airliner altitudes in the 30,000 foot range. And then the Black Hills, always showing some very funny, very unusual wave patterns. But then I'm a kind of a quirky guy, so I like looking at those things. If I look at the big picture, we had the flood warnings out for Kansas City earlier today. Those have dropped off. The bigger, heavier rains in Florida, but that is a big old flat, sandy area with a lot of lakes, and they can soak up a lot of water. But it's down in Texas. We'll pop down in there and see big storms rumbling through. This has been a dry area, so these rains are welcome. It's like the summer monsoon has begun. And then I'm up in here where some of these rains and thunderstorms just now giving us a little bit of moisture and allowing allowing for a little bit of relief from the dry. It's not much more than to get the soil maybe that much wet, and it's so dry. If we were to have a big rain, it would just simply run off. It would just be a big old muddy slough of water. The drought continues in the west. This was the freshly updated drought monitor images for today. We saw some improvement in Texas, mid and south Texas, other parts of the mid south and into the northeast. Even parts of Iowa and Wisconsin got a little bit of improvement, and even some parts of California, because we had all those good mountain snows earlier today, didn't see any degradation when some of that was expected. So we're gonna pass on through. I can see you chatting over there. So cute. Yeah, those little fawns are kind of something else. And to see a pair of twins there, that's a lot of work for mama to kind of feed them. At least where they were, it's green, and you got some goodies. goodies to feed those little ones. A third tropical system before hurricane season, as the Weather Underground, these guys, they've got a great app. And if you've got a weather station and want to join the network, they're always welcome to hook you up. And so you can share your personal weather station's data with the world. And I had one on one. I was in Puerto Rico last year, but I haven't yet set it up here because I was silly and left it in storage down there and didn't bring it back with me. Slap me, Scott. So a third tropical system before hurricane that could happen over the Bahamas. We'll watch that over the weekend. And here's our big blocking pattern with the ridge that's been out west, kind of migrating to the middle of the country, and that will move the heat from California back into Texas, while the two corners of the nation likely just going to remain on the hot side. And there's the jet stream. There's our two big lows out of the Pacific with the jet stream kind of squeaking on in between the two. And as we kind of rotate on through, we move to the beginning of next week. Everybody's going back to work. Some rains into California. This low kind of wants to cut off. And that would bring some relief from the record heat that they've been enduring, the triple digit heat, and potentially even some rain into deep Southern California. Now, that would be out of season. And this is deep enough that we might even see some flurries at or above, say, 10,000 feet or 4,000, 3,000 meters or so. And then the Northeast cools off once again. And even as I kind of quickly scroll this out, this is another area we're going to watch is the Gulf of Mexico. Early on, we kind of showed that scatter plot with the models kind of showing a mishmash of areas where the storms could develop, where a hurricane could develop. And we're watching that kind of roll on into Texas. And that would be a good distance out. But I think over the next 2 weeks, we keep the Northeast on the cool, even if you get a couple of warm days in between, and the Northwest does not stay hot. All right, we pop over here to the long range precip forecast, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. Good to see you guys over there. Lori, I noticed over the past years that we can have a super sunny day, and then the trails get sprayed, and bam, it's super cloudy everywhere or within an hour or two. And it kind of happens because those things can be precursors to immediate changes in the weather. I have run time lapse photography for 10 plus years. Used to have almost 2 terabytes worth of time lapse data on the clouds. And you could see, especially if there was a bunch of flights and they kind of look like they're concentrating on an area, the clouds would literally begin right there. It's as if they were seeding a location, and then that particular location with all of that fresh particulate in the atmosphere was then electrified, and then the clouds just bloomed. And as over the coming days, I will show you that on satellite imagery because it is there every single day. Every single day, there are these hotspots that they tend to work on for whatever agenda. We'll know someday, but we don't know exactly today. But as our defense secretary Cohen mentioned 25 years ago now, back in 96, 24 years ago, that there's an aspect of ecoterrorism happens, and it all helps the economy. If they could keep money moving through the system, then disasters pay. That's just how it's viewed from the Keynesian side of economics. That you've got to have velocity of money through the system. So we'll look at here probably 10 days or so. Let's go out 240 hours, and then we can begin to see 6, 7, 8 inches worth of rain in the central Gulf of Mexico. Still dry in West Texas. That kind of concerns me because they've had a complete failure of the wheat crop up here in the Oklahoma Panhandle. So they need to kind of get some rain. It would still give those farmers time to replant. Whether they have the funds to do that yet, if insurance can pay out that quickly, I don't know because I have not been to walk through the situation. But I'm going to run it all the way to the end. And if we look from Florida all the way up to the Northwest Territories, in Alberta and British Columbia, this is wet. This is really, really wet. This is a lot of rainfall falling across the central part of North America. That's a lot of water. Just the Baja and then the far western side of the Sierra Madre and into the lower Colorado River Valley on the dry side. But this ultimately is a lot of water for the season. You expect the summer thunderstorm season, say east of the 100th parallel or the 100th line of longitude, but westward, this is a lot of water. So and the kind of cool thing about that is that if there's a lot of water coming out of the sky this time of year, things green up. The plants, the land becomes very productive. So this is the upside. And if it ends up being greener, even with high pressures, we tend not to get record heat. That prana, that heat from the sun then comes in and it becomes plant growth, it becomes vegetation, it becomes sustenance for the animal kingdom. So this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I kind of like what I'm seeing here. All right, Thursday evening. Thanks for coming on in here. And let me see what else have I missed over here. Vicky can't wait to see that. Oh, me too. Me too. I'd like to see an inch or two here in the San Luis Valley. It'd be nice to get some green going on before these trees have to endure a hot, dry summer. That would just almost be a bridge too far for them. We've had so much beetle kill anyway. We don't need to lose the pinions and the other stuff that's here. Marlene Brown, I wouldn't go to the gas chamber, so they bring us to them. Who knows? Who knows? There's still some unknowns, and I think there's some aspects of these trails that have not even been revealed to us, and I don't know that a lot of people want to know that. They tend to be kind of happy in their I don't want to say ignorance, but in that situation. So we'll just kind of see how this plays out over the next couple of years. And as the economy begins to, be on the in the tatters, we've got commercial flights, which these trails then take a ride with, and with 90% fewer planes airborne, our air has gotten measurably clearer. Our skies are bluer. And from the canals of Venice, where you're seeing the dolphins and the wildlife return, and the sheep, around, to the goats in Ireland and Wales, the swans and the flamingos in Delhi. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to what's happening to this COVID situation, and allowing humanity to kind of stay in their cave while nature gets to express itself out in the open, and we can enjoy that a little bit. All right, everybody, want to thanks for you dropping by, and we'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, Vicky, glad you could stop by and say hi. All right, everybody, take care. See you tomorrow.